Well then, guys, welcome back into the Spooky Shed, your go-to place for conversations around all things weird, scary, and of course spooky. Got a guest with me tonight, so we have got Leighton from Surviving Horror Podcast. So Leighton, welcome into the shed. How are we?
I'm great, thank you. No, thanks for having me. Yeah,
good. Not a problem. Been looking forward to this one because, again, like a lot of the ones I've done recently, this is the second attempt at doing this. Isn't life just great?
Yeah, too right.
Yeah. Right, so Leighton, I prep everybody, so I always get all my guests to leave something in the shed with us, so it can be something you love, something you hate, whatever you want. The weirder the better, but what have you got for me?
Well, we're going to talk all about horror today, so I am scarred by this fairly trashy Slaughter High, because when I would have been about maybe 9 or 10, my older brother had his mates around, they were watching that, I sneaked down to watch it. The main character is a baddie called Marty, and they pushed me out in the garden in the pitch black going, "Marty's going to get you." So I was terrified of it. It's a pretty crap film, but it scarred me for life. So I'll leave that in your shed.
Fair enough. I mean, I'd say I'll add it to my list of things to watch, but seeing as you said it's crap, I don't know if I will, but I might have to, just to see how bad it is.
Yeah.
Because sometimes with horror, that's what makes it almost good, I find, anyway.
Yeah, needs to be amazing or
bad, they're good, yeah.
So bad they're good, for sure, yeah.
But I'm very much of that opinion that horrors are either brilliant or utter shit. There doesn't seem to be much in between.
Who wants lukewarm?
Well,
you want either good or shit. That's what you want, for sure.
Yeah, true. I always try to think about it, and I can never think of a horror film that I think is just, it's okay. Okay, I've never had that experience.
I don't think it exists. They're for the rom-coms, aren't they? The kind of mediocre, medium, vanilla.
Yeah, true. I've got no shame in admitting, no, I don't mind them. Some of them are all right.
When the time's right, for sure.
Yeah, they've got the place. Like I say, time and place. Right then, we're starting to ramble a bit. So do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about your podcast first before we start?
Yeah, sure. So my best mate, we went to school, we've known each other for 35 years, which is making me feel really old. For years, we talk about horror, and they're like, we should make a podcast. And then about 3 more years pass. And then finally, we're like, let's get a microphone and just sit down and do it. So Surviving Horror Podcast, a couple of mates chatting shit, talking about a horror movie once a month. We have a bit of a dive into a film. We think about better choices they could have made, so the characters might make it to the end credits instead of getting chopped to bits. And then we think about, if we were in that situation, what might we do differently to make it through as well.
Nice. It's a cool idea, because I think, again, that's one of the beauties of horror movies, is that's what you do when you're watching them. Like, I don't think I've ever watched a horror movie where I've not said out loud, "What are you doing, you fucking idiot?"
Pretty much. And that's our podcast, try and fix the problems they make.
Mm. So before we jump into what we're about to talk about, have you got any really standout favourites?
Old school stuff. So I found my baby book from what my mum filled in when I was a kid. And when I turned my 4th birthday, she made a note saying, "Leighton is enjoying horror books." So I was getting into kind of old school stuff with my dad. I used to just sit on the sofa and watch Dawn of the Dead and watch Evil Dead, The Thing, all the classics and things like that. As long as my dad was there, I didn't feel scared. If I tried to watch it on my own, I was terrified. So from a young age, all those 80s classics is what I grew up on quite at the time.
Yeah. Evil Dead is a classic for me. Bit weird now with the whole tree between the legs scene and what have you, but it's still good.
Yeah, that was cut when I was a kid. I didn't see that till much later in life, and I was a bit like, we don't need that, thanks very much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's funny, because mine's sort of the opposite. So, because I first got into horror movies when I was about, well, not as young as you, 4-year-old, but I was definitely younger than I should have been. I was about 10 years old, and Nightmare on Elm Street was on BBC Two at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I remember looking through Radio Times, TV Mag, or whatever it was. Obviously, I always used to tell you when it was a film and stuff, and I remember asking my dad, "Oh, what's that?" And he told me all about it. Like I say, 10 years old. So me being me, I stayed up and watched it and didn't sleep again for about a week.
It was worth it though, wasn't it? We all watched stuff too young, and then you're like, this blew my mind, but also filled me with nightmares for days and days. But I want to do it again. Yeah. That's the thing.
Because I am one of them weird ones. I watched The Exorcist too young. Didn't bother me really.
Yeah, you probably need to be a little bit older for some of those that get in your head and be an adult. It's the ones that are a bit more monsters and stuff are great as a kid, aren't they?
Yeah.
Just kind of scary stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Right then, so let's jump into what we're going to talk about tonight. So we're going to talk about Ghostwatch, which came out on the BBC in 1992, the year I was born, without making anybody feel too old there. Even I feel old myself.
Well, it's making me feel old. I was 13
Well, I apologise.
when it came out. So I was probably just the right age. Yeah, it went out on Halloween night in 92, didn't it? So I was 13, and I remember the context is so important now. It's still good to watch, you know, if you catch it, it's entertaining, a little bit cheesy, but certainly entertaining. But the context was everything. At school, everyone's talking about it. It's in the Radio Times, in the TV listings. It's like, oh, this thing's coming out, check it out. And so I remember all the kids talking about it. It would have been, what would be year 8 or something, you know? And then you watched it, and then the chat when you got back to school, I think it was a Saturday where we got back to school. Like, did you see it? It was crazy. So that context of like it's the live event, like sport is all we've got now, isn't it? But now you stream stuff, you catch it. No one's chatting about the same show, but everyone was back in saying like, oh my God, did you see that thing the other night? So yeah, it was great.
I can already imagine what it must have been like at the time, because obviously, like the thing that makes it so famous is the fact that obviously so many people actually thought it was genuine, that it was real, that it was actually live, and what have you. So I can only imagine what it must have been like to watch it. Like when you watched it, did you think it was actually happening, or did you actually click on that it wasn't?
You kind of did. But there's a little voice in the back of your head going, this can't be real. But, and I don't know if you'll remember it, there was a BBC show called Crime Watch where they would have real crimes, or they'd reenact this like armed robbery. And that was like entertaining telly, action telly. But it was the same format, but look, Ghostwatch. And they had all the characters who did your Saturday morning kids TV were like on screen, Sarah Green and stuff. And even the number that you had to phone on at the bottom of the screen was the same number from Live and Kicking, your Saturday morning kids TV show. So you're like, oh, it's the BBC number. So they did enough to convince you, even if you're going, this can't be real, you're like, yeah, but it feels real. So let's go with it, you know.
Yeah,
loads of great detail.
I know one of the things as well that they started to convince people was that obviously they got a lot more people calling that number than they anticipated, because what was supposed to happen was when they called that number, that it was supposed to like obviously play back a message that it wasn't real. But because that many people phoned it, obviously it jammed all the phone lines, so that message never actually got through to anybody, which to me is just crazy in itself.
Well, I'm pretty sure that before it aired, they put out a kind of, coming up now on BBC One, a drama, you know, but who was kind of sitting down bang on. I remember all my mates did exactly the same thing. You drifted in at like 1 minute past 9, 2 minutes past 9, whenever it went out. And so you just got the start of the thing. So you missed this little warning before. And yeah, I'd read that thing that there was like 5 people manning the phone. So most people were getting either engaged or no one to talk to. Yeah. No one telling them, don't worry, it's not real.
Yeah. Like I say, it's just crazy. But it's like you say, I mean, I only heard about it. It must have been a year and a half ago. Weirdly, I heard about it through a true crime podcast, because they did an episode all about it. Even though there isn't actually a crime involved in it, there's a little bit of controversy, which obviously we'll get into at some point. But that was the first time I'd heard of it, and I was like, how the hell have I not heard of this? And then obviously they said on there that obviously it was banned and everything, and I found it on Amazon Prime, on Prime Video, so if anyone hasn't watched it and they want to watch it, it's on there. If you're in the UK, I don't know if it's the same in the US, but yeah. But I watched it, and obviously fully aware that obviously it wasn't real, obviously, but did still get them little moments where the hairs on the back of your neck and your arms and everything was standing up. There was still some bits that got me.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by the context. You know, Michael Parkinson was the, you know, Saturday night talk show of the day, the Graham Norton, the Letterman, whoever you are, you know, the big cheese. And you're like, well, he's real and he's hosting it, giving it all the kind of live TV host. And then all the faces, they're not actors, they're, you know, kids TV presenters and Craig Charles and, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. So it really swept you along with that stuff.
Yeah, because the other two, I can't remember the names now. Weren't they Blue Peter presenters, I believe, at one point?
Well, there was.
So, I mean,
yeah, Sarah Green did the Saturday morning kids TV going live that I was a kid when that was on. And then her husband was the guy manning the phones, who did like Top of the Pops radio and stuff. And I'd read as well that they didn't cast them on purpose. It was a coincidence that they managed to get a couple, which then worked out nicely in the show as well, yeah.
Yeah, but like, because I think that was one of the things that actually convinced people as well, like you say, because they were so well known and so like trustworthy. I mean, it's weird calling a top of the pops presenter trustworthy. Like, can't say that anymore. But obviously, back then,
Yeah, I mean, it's the 90s, isn't it? And it's the BBC. You know, all around the world, the BBC is to be trusted, you know, BBC News and all that stuff. I know we live in a more modern world now, but back then it was like, if it's on the BBC and they're playing it straight, then it's legit. And so
yeah,
it was more for you to convince yourself, no, it can't be. And more
mm,
things, well, it might, it's like the whole War of the Worlds back in the day on the radio
yeah,
that people were convinced aliens were landing in the States and
mm,
stuff. There was enough doubt in your mind to make you think, this might actually be a thing. Obviously,
yeah,
not anymore when you watch it as a repeat, but yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, should say for anyone who hasn't seen it or doesn't even know what the hell we're talking about, essentially it was a program. Essentially, it was a live paranormal investigation, wasn't it? That was basically the idea of it. So it's again, it had very much like, I think they sort of used the Enfield poltergeist thing as a bit of a basis for it, because it was like a single mum, 2 kids, and shit's happening in the house, basically.
Yeah, the story was this family had been investigated, single mom, like you say, with 2 daughters. The like psychologist or whatever is in the studio, and we've been dealing on this case. A lot like the Enfield poltergeist, there's been stuff thrown around. We've got footage of the daughter being chucked around, scratched on her face and stuff. And that was kind of being presented as the evidence to start the show. And then the live broadcast from this haunted house. Let's see what happens. Kind of, you know, maybe nothing will happen. Maybe, and they play it for laughs a little bit, don't they? And kind of try and prank each other a bit. And then it ramps up, and then things really happen and stuff. Yeah.
Which again, like, adds to the, you know, is it real? You know, when, like I say, when they're making jokes about it, and then stuff's happening that they say is real, it makes you. I'd imagine that probably convinced a few more people as well.
There was no real format like it. You know, we have so much live TV and kind of broadcasts from outside of studios, but 80s and 90s growing up, it was clearly like a drama, a film, a soap opera or whatever. And this felt like it was in the real world, just in some random semi-detached house on a normal street like yours that you're watching at home, you know. So yeah, they did a great job of kind of making it feel as normal as possible.
Yeah. So, and so what would we call him? The baddie in it, the poltergeist.
Mr. Pipes.
Yeah, Mr. Pipes.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, especially because there's a part, isn't there? So it's supposed to be live footage of the kid's bedroom, and then obviously the camera pans across, and then obviously then they cut back to the presenters, and it's then they've obviously people supposedly calling in saying that they've seen something.
Yeah,
Then they
absolutely
go back
brilliant.
and check.
And you still enjoy it now. If you stick it on the DVD or you catch it online or whatever, you're like, yeah, this is good drama, fake mockumentary. But I remember my mom, yeah, as many moms would do, drift in and out and doing the dishes or whatever, and came in, what are you watching here? And she was like, there was a bloke there at the back. In the same time that someone's phoning in going, I've just seen a bloke in the back. And then it panned across and there's no bloke in the replay. And my mom was like, I swear there was a bloke. But, you know, now you would just rewind your live telly and stuff. But back then you were like, well, Mom, they've just replayed the footage and there's no, what are you on about? So
exactly.
Even little tricks like that were fantastic in the watch, in the moment when it was going out. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, me and the previous guest, we briefly spoke about it on an episode, and like I say, I think it's because of that, because of, like you say, you could live pause and everything, and how the way the world is, like I say, with the internet and everything now. It's a real shame that there's no way you'd be able to do anything like that again. It was like one in a million chance of actually being able to do that, and convincingly.
Proper like analog age, isn't it? I guess the closest you could do would be if someone was a celeb for live streaming all the time. But then if they did something that went weird, you'd be like, this is a joke that it's gonna work out, you know. So I think we're all a bit too savvy and a bit too we always assume like this is fake, that's fake, and now increasingly that's AI, you know. So yeah, perfect time to put that kind of thing out. Enough trust in the BBC and the faces on the screen and stuff that people would believe it.
Yeah. Because they actually did a proper little like background story for Mr. Pipes, didn't they? So that like who he was when he was alive.
Yeah, it gets really dark. You know, bear in mind you're like 12 and 13, and they're like, this tenant was possessed in this house and started dressing as an old lady and putting on a funny voice, and then he hangs himself in the cupboard under the stairs. No one found him for like 2 weeks, and the cats in the house started eating him because they were hungry, and that's why his face is all messed up when he shows up as a guy. He's like, I'm just 12, Mom. What are we watching here? You know. But yeah, for like a BBC drama, it went some dark places for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just the fact that because he was supposed to be a farmer and obviously kill children, and it's just like, what the. Like, especially for the BBC, that's pretty dark anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
I know they do some good dramas now, and they some of them take a little bit of a dark turn, but that took a very hard turn to the left when obviously all them bits started getting revealed.
I mean, there were loads of complaints after. We loved it, you know, teenagers going back to school, chatting with you, best thing ever. Were you scared? I was scared. But yeah, I think they got like thousands and thousands of complaints after the show, and probably during the show as well, you know.
I believe it. Well, like I say again, when we come on to like the controversy around it, because some parts of the controversy hilarious, other parts horrific. But I'm pretty sure it had over 1 million, because I'm pretty sure it's the record for the show with the most complaints ever.
Hopefully there were a few in there going, that was really good. Do more like that, as well as the complaints. Yeah. That would have, if I'd have phoned in, I would have been saying that as a teenager. Yeah.
Yeah, because the bit that, like I say, even for me watching it, no, like I say again, no, it wasn't real. The thing that really got me, and like the bit that really got their hairs on my neck standing up, because I tried to put myself in the mindset of, like, you know, it's the first time I've seen it, you know, it is real sort of thing. Obviously, it's basically impossible to do, but I did my best. But when the girl, with the voice change,
when she's like doing a possessed voice, and it's
yeah.
Well, that's it. You kind of suspend, even when you're watching a movie, you kind of go, but what if this were real? That's why we watch movies, don't we? And we, you know, what if that was happening to your kid or whatever? Yeah, it's a bit rough, isn't it? And she's putting this weird voice on and freaking everyone out and everything. Yeah,
and again, very, very similar to the Enfield poltergeist.
Well, the show plays out, don't they, that she was trying to fake it for attention or something like that, and she gets found out, and I think she's like hiding behind the door or something, putting some fake voice on her. And Parky's all like, "Oh well, there we go. We've figured out the case," and kind of being quite dismissive. Yeah. And then it takes the other turn. It was actually, it's not fake. This is happening now. Yeah. So that took you on a bit of a ride. And actually thinking about it as well, that sense of when they did Crime Watch, they would be like, here's the things, phone in. If we get any clues for the coppers, we'll give you an update later. I'd have gone to bed because I was too young. But, you know, at like 11:30, there'll be an update. We've found this baddie or whatever. And in Ghostwatch, they were like, we'll be on all night and we'll be giving you updates on the hour, through the hour, right through. You knew it was going to run out of time, but you kind of felt like it might be calling back in at 11 and 12 and 1 in the morning with updates and stuff. So they did such a good job of as much as they could to kind of make it feel real.
Yeah, because obviously the studio parts of Crime Watch, because obviously they used to do the reenactments and stuff, but obviously the studio part, at least when I was a kid, and like weirdly, we used to like sit down as a family and watch Crime Watch. I don't know if that's weird. It seems weird now.
It was like good action telly, wasn't it? Your bank robbery, here we go, let's do it. Yeah, and they were really well done.
It just seems really weird now. We used to literally all sit down as a family and watch some old woman getting robbed in a shop, and it's just like almost like entertainment, and it's just like, this is actually real.
Yeah, well, that was it. I think that's it, isn't it? That's the closest in my mind. I know you could talk about stuff like Blair Witch Project and things that followed, but in the moment when it went out, that was the closest thing. Or something like a Comic Relief that's live and it's going on all night and there's updates. Do you know what I mean? So that was as close as a context as you could get.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because that was one of the things that I thought about, was something like the Blair Witch, like you say, like you found footage movies almost. But I suppose that it's almost a cross between that and like Most Haunted Live when they used to do them.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. But if they were doing a Most Haunted Live and stuff actually really started happening and Yvette Fielding gets chucked out of a window, you'd be like, what? But equally, we'd probably now go, this can't be real. Yvette Fielding will be all right, won't she? But yeah, that's as close as we could get to that sort of thing in the modern day. I mean, Blair Witch was great. I would have been, I don't know, about 19, 20 or something when that went out. And you knew it was just a movie. You kind of wished someone just posted a video through your door so you could watch that. But it was the hype on the internet, and the internet was such a different place in the late 90s, kind of mid-90s. And so enough people with Blair Witch were like, this might be real. Who knows? Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought nowhere near as much, but it was similar when Paranormal Activity came out. There was, I mean, like I said, nowhere near as much, because I know a lot of people believed that the Blair Witch was real. A lot of people went to school with were convinced it was real. But I do remember a lot of people, questioning Paranormal Activity, whether that was real or not, until you see the end.
I think it's because they feel normal, don't they? So this Ghostwatch was a 90s house, and it felt like my house, my mate's house, whatever. There's a normal living room, normal family. And even something like Paranormal Activity, okay, it's in America, but it felt like a normal modern home with a normal couple in their first house. And so you're like, this feels close. This feels normal to me. Yeah.
So to go back to obviously Ghostwatch, but again, this is why I really should have rewatched it again before we've done this, but sadly I've not had a chance. I'm trying to remember, obviously, because I know, like I said, the bit with the voice changes towards the end. I'm trying to remember how hell breaks loose into the studio.
It kind of ramps up. And so they're cutting away, they're cutting back. They lose the feed at some point to the live thing.
Yeah.
And they're all panicking a little bit. And actually, I mean, when you watch it now and you're looking out for him, Mr. Pipes is appearing through the show, and he's in the back of the studio up in the kind of way in the background. And they're doing a live walk past with Craig Charles, and he's in the crowd picking out behind someone. So you can spot him about like 8 or 9 or 10 times or something. But yeah, it ramps up. They lose the feed, and then they're just panicking. Oh, we've got the feedback. And then if you're paying attention, you realize that's a scene from earlier. And even if you're not, in a little bit, they say, hang on, that bottle of pop got knocked over earlier or something like that, This is the footage from earlier. And they start to realise, and then they're cutting back, and suddenly, not everyone's out of the house, it's all kicking off, and it's all, they're trying to get the feedback and everything. So if you're totally oblivious as a viewer, suddenly you're like, oh my God, it's not all okay. It's all kicked off in the house. And now we're going back in to find out what's happened to Sarah Green and the cameraman and the one daughter who's still in. So it really kind of pushes you into that kind of final act. And then it feels like a kind of found footage, because I think they've got like the night vision-y type camera, haven't they? So we have to watch it through those eyes in order to see what's happening. Sarah's looking for the daughter who's lost, and she can hear her, and she's like, come on, Dave, the cameraman, come with me. Let's try and find her. Which I really like. I mean, I know some people get a bit kind of seasick watching the found footage Blair Witch things, but it forces you to almost see what's happening. You can't look away, or you can't look beyond the character. And you're like, what? And they pan around. I think there is something. You're like, what the hell was that? And then they're panning back and stuff. And then, it all kind of, they lose all that stuff. Sarah Green gets dragged into the cupboard under the stairs. It's all gone off.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
And then the studio's going berserk. Everything's blowing up. Basically, they've used the BBC to create this mass seance across the country. People have been phoning in going, something's kicked off in my house. Why have you been doing this? You've got to stop it now. Yeah. And then Parky is calling way back to one of the kids with a nursery rhyme. What's that on the auto cue? And he starts reading the kind of round around the garden or something.
Yeah.
And then that's it. It's all over.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the point is that he's almost then supposed to be like possessed as well, isn't he? Because he's sort of, you sort of see like a half shot of him, and he's just sort of like walking around talking to himself.
The studio's gone. Cameras are rolling around on their own, unmanned, and he sits down to do the last little piece to camera. I mean, that is, even if you believed it all, you get to the end, you're like, this can't be real. But, where would you take the final part of the movie? It's got to wrap up somehow. Exactly. But a bit of fun.
Yeah, well, that's a good place to start with the controversies of it then, and definitely best to start with the hilarious. The fact that Michael Parkinson's family was actually some of the people that phoned the BBC to make sure he was okay. Like, to me, that is just brilliant.
Well, convincing enough, isn't it?
Well, that's what I mean as well, and clearly it shows that they must have, like, obviously they kept it a secret, obviously.
Yeah. And I like that fact that Sarah Green and Mike Smith were married. So when he's going, is she okay? It wasn't just two, colleagues in a TV studio. It's like, where's my wife? What's happened here? My missus has been dragged into a cupboard by a demon. And he's kind of, I've got to get to the house, and running out of the studio. So, I think they did a convincing enough job. And clearly Parky's family are like, is Parky all right? National treasure Parky? Or is he actually possessed? So, great.
Now, that would have been like good telly to like see Michael Parkinson genuinely possessed.
Well, do you know what? You say like the BBC is really trustworthy and stuff, but I do remember another show at a similar time, and it was the Paul Daniels Magic Show, and he used to do like a Christmas Halloween special. And there was one where he does this last little bit and he's trying to escape from this thing and it slams shut on him and like spikes him to death. You wouldn't see him, he's inside. And that's it. Just credits roll, Paul Daniels' magic show, and then it cuts to like EastEnders or whatever. And I'm like, Paul Daniels is dead. I've just watched him die on the telly. What about Debbie McGee? So sometimes the BBC would proper like do you over. But there's no internet to be like, Google, is Paul Daniels dead?
Yeah.
So for weeks, you're like, has anyone seen Paul Daniels? Or is that it? No more magic. So it was like that, wasn't it? Yeah. We went back to school and we were like, what do you think? Was it real or, And you had no way of kind of finding out it was a drama or, none of it was real. Or we have since, the phone line, like you said, would have put you out a message, but we didn't know that when we went back to school. It's like, did you phone in? No, I didn't. But everyone was phoning on the show, weren't they?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, again, just before we jump into the darker side of the controversy, can you remember then when it all came out that it wasn't real? Because surely it can't have been long afterwards.
And well, if you had the Radio Times, you can find it, Google it, and you'll see the TV listings, and it describes it as like a whatever, BBC drama, whatever they're called. They had like a series of these dramas. Screen One, that was it. Screen One as part of the Screen One Halloween stuff, and they've got credits. So it's like presenter Michael Parkinson, external studio Sarah Green and stuff. So they've all got the credits, and so it's a drama from that. If you'd actually sat down early and you were there at 9:01, you got as part of Screen One, this is a drama, enjoy. But we didn't have that. And we were just like, I think it's real. And so I know we'll move on to the kind of the darker bits of the controversy, but some of that we became aware of. And we were teenagers, so you weren't reading the daily paper.
Yeah.
But someone must have picked up the stuff from their mum or dad or whatever. And so the stuff that came out in the news about the kind of, real impact of it, we were aware of. And you're like, well, this has happened. This bloke's done that, or these kids have done that as a result of it. Yeah. So even if it was a drama, it's had a real consequence. And I do remember that kind of rumour mill coming around, like the school canteen kind of thing,
Yeah. Because I would have thought, especially now, like I say, if there was a way of doing something like that now, and that many complaints, that'd be the first thing on the news the next morning, right? This wasn't real. But we're like, was that not the case?
I wouldn't have seen it as a 13-year-old, but I'm pretty sure if you look back at it, there was loads in the press about what the hell are the BBC doing and what's Parky doing, lovable Michael Parkinson. So I'm pretty sure if you're watching it as a sort of, as a dad or whatever, you would have seen all this stuff play out quite quickly and known that it was quite a maybe ill-judged drama, or maybe put it out with more warnings. I went to a screening in Sheffield where they did, I don't know, like 25th anniversary or whatever. So we had it on the screen and the director and the writer were there doing a bit of a Q&A at the end as well. And they asked us to put in little health warnings almost kind of midway through. Don't worry, it's just a drama at the bottom of the screen. And that'll break the magic. So let's not do that. So you need the magic in there because in your head it's not real. Yeah. But you've got to let the magic sweep you up to go, but it might be.
Yeah, exactly. It's well, I said, we'll jump into the darker side of things because obviously it's a shame this happened, and it's even more of a shame that it's happened because of something like this, because then that probably kill the BBC, basically. Probably a wrong choice of word there, even trying to do anything like this again. So, well, what I found here, so it says, I'm basically reading the Wikipedia page for Ghostwatch, and it's under psychological effects. So it says a number of psychological effects were reported in Ghostwatch's wake. So 18-year-old factory worker Martin Denham, who suffered from learning difficulties and had a mental age of 13, died by suicide 5 days after the programme aired. The family home had suffered with faulty central heating system, which had caused the pipes to knock. Denham linked this to the activity in the show, causing him great worry. He left a suicide note reading, "If there are ghosts, I will be with you always as a ghost." That's horrific.
It is, isn't it?
Mm.
What can you do? You could never kind of prepare or negate for that, can you?
No, definitely not.
I don't know. They put warnings out, and if you put warnings through the show, would it have even helped him? Because it's still, we've both said, look, it's not real, and yet it's still convincing. It's still good as a horror fan or whatever. So even with all the heads up in the world, younger people, I know there's that one with that Martin, but there were kids with PTSD symptoms coming out of it as well. And so
Yeah.
Even with lots of warnings and lots of reassurances, would it have still
Mm.
had the same impact? So it's really hard to judge. And then, you can question, well, should you be making it? Should you be putting it out? We as
Yeah.
horror fans can go and get our DVD or whatever from the horror section and put that on in our own time. But this was on your telly, coming into your
Yeah.
living room on BBC One, the main
Mm.
channel.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably lots for people smarter than me to kind of unpack and consider with that. But yeah, really rough.
Yeah. Yeah, again, and again, it's another reason why it wouldn't work nowadays, purely because of the internet. Because, like I said, with the fact that it is advertised as a drama, so and then that would be all over the internet, and it'd be called a drama on everybody's social media and the TikTok accounts, YouTube pages, and stuff like whoever was talking about it. Because I mean, obviously we know well in advance about when things are coming out on the telly now. Obviously, probably a lot more than we did back then. So again, which is another reason, again, why it wouldn't work nowadays. So, yeah, it's a real shame that you said that happened, obviously, but it's just a real shame that it happened because of that, because it was so good to watch, but then it's had them horrible effects, like you said, because that was, again, like you said, that was the main reason why you said the true crime podcast that I actually heard it about for the first time, done an episode all about it, was because of, like you say, obviously Martin, who took his own life, and then the amount of people that were genuinely diagnosed with PTSD from it, and it's just, which when you think, it's crazy, really.
Yeah, and I'm not being dismissive of that at all, but it's a slightly different thing, isn't it? We all had nightmares, and we almost laughed them off. Of like you said, I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, and I couldn't sleep for like 2 nights, 3 nights, whatever. And we almost see that as a kind of funny rite of passage as a kid watching sneaky horror movies and stuff. But do
But you
these
know that
things?
movie.
You know it's a movie, but if you have a nightmare where Freddy's coming for you, and it feels, in that moment when you wake up and you shit in your pants, it feels real for that 1 second, but it's a movie, and quite quickly you wake up and you run off to find your mom and say, like, I've had a nightmare and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult. And even that note, I'd read that comment online as well of, if ghosts are real, I'll be with you. It's like, even that hits you, doesn't it? It's,
Oh, yeah.
Really, really tough one. And I imagine the people who directed it, wrote it, and all the rest, it's like, okay, you can be defensive about a piece of art and stuff, but when that lands, like, what the hell do you do with that? And knowing that you're questioning, did I cause this? Should I have made it? Really tough, really rough.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'd imagine they probably all thought like that, like you say, from the directors to the, like you say, the presenters themselves, because, like, anybody involved in it. I mean, obviously no, obviously they won't have expected that to happen, and they probably all thought, like I said, because, like I said, obviously it was recorded, so I'm surmising they probably watched it back at some point, probably had some sort of screening of it beforehand, and I'd imagine they all probably sat there and thought, yeah, that's pretty good, and then when it actually goes out, and then, like I say, this happens, like you say, people take obviously own lives took, and then PTSD, they were probably all like, what the hell have we done?
Yeah. And it is one of those things, isn't it? Like, in a slightly more light-hearted way of, like you say, if the radiators are clinking, you'd be like, oh, is that Mr. Pipes? And kind of trying to upset your little brother. But this is a different scale with it, isn't it, for sure?
Yeah.
Really tough. But I guess there could be similar things if you call back to, like, the War of the Worlds. There may well have been people who thought it was the end of times, aliens are coming, and what choices did they make before they found out it was just, what's his chops, Orson Welles doing a radio broadcast,
Yeah.
So, yeah, hard.
I mean, it's like you say. I think it's different, like I say, when it's a movie, because I think even when you're a kid, there is a part of you that's like, even though you're petrified, hiding behind your pillow, like, it's just a film. It's just a film. It's just a film. It's not real. It's not real. I say, I guess, and then especially, like you said, and it just, I don't know why, and this might be controversial, but to me, it almost makes it hits you more, the fact that, like, say, it was a guy with, like, learning difficulties and stuff, and it just feels like, but then, I mean, again, this will definitely be controversial. Then, should his parents let him have watched it? But then again, I suppose he was 18, wasn't he? So it's like,
yeah,
what do you do? It's just, I don't know. Well, I don't suppose there's a lot you can do. It's just a shame.
I don't know. And could it have happened with other media and other things? You never know, do you? And I guess that's one side of, like, the whole horror genre we've got to own as fans. There'll be some people where it's more than scared, it's more than the thrill of the fun, like the roller coaster. It is the thing where they can never watch it again at best, or something worse. I mean, I've got friends who are like, I watched it when it went on. I cannot watch it again. I know I could watch it online. I know it's not real. My God, I'm not pressing play on that thing again because I don't want to go back there, and they're now in their 40s, so it's, even in that sense, it has an impact on some in a far less drastic way.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, like I said, just really good watch. If you can watch it, I definitely recommend watching it. It's just a shame that it's almost tarnished with that, but yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, the legacy in a more positive sense is, I know that if you think about like Inside Number 9, and they did the live Halloween show, and they've kind of referenced that approach and that style. And it actually, I think even the guys who went on to do stuff like Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity, and yes, they're over in the States, but they've made reference to it, and that sense of pushing it to feel as real as it can, despite actually, it's not. A more modern day, Late Night with the Devil on Shudder and all that sort of, you can, if you let yourself go, you can question, is this real? But you're in the cinema watching a big screen, and of course it's not real or you've got the DVD box in your hand, so of course it's not real because I bought this in HMV. So there's enough kind of creative people who call back to it, and enough people who have enjoyed the thrill of the scare that they made a good piece of art. There is that much for sure.
And obviously, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, obviously, it was obviously the inspiration for Most Haunted and Most Haunted Live, which was, like I say again, back then was massive.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't believe in all that ghost stuff, if I'm honest, personally. But what would they do if they went out with the cameras and like, holy shit, this is real. Has anyone set this one up? No, this one was real. What the hell would they do? And we as the viewers, the cynic in me would still be like, it's a load of rubbish, isn't it? And those who are really into it would be like, oh yeah, it's real, because they believe the other stuff is real as well, so. But yeah, that's as close as we get now in the kind of more modern time, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm still on the skeptical side of things. I'm a lot less skeptical than I was, because a lot of weird stuff has happened in my life. Well, since I've been doing this bloody podcast, so, should I stop doing it? I'm not going to, but maybe I should. But yeah, I think that's it for Ghostwatch. So before we finish then, because like I say, obviously we obviously both big fans of horror, and obviously I've done quite a few episodes now with guests just purely based on horror movies. So do you have a favourite genre when it comes to horror movies?
It's got to be zombies. I mean, I like everything. I'm not particularly mad on just like torture porn and gore and stuff like that. I'm about like, what's the point in this? I want the goodies to try and get past the baddies, basically, and that's partly what prompted me and Danny to come up with the podcast of like, how can we back the goodies to actually survive? So I'm a big fan of zombies. My favourite movie is Dawn of the Dead. I remember again watching that far too young, and in a time when there was no such thing as shopping malls in the UK. You had like your high street shops. But then suddenly on the screen is this massive, which for now is probably a really small one, but this massive indoor shopping mall, which in its own right was a character. But that sense of not just running around shooting zombies in the head like a video game, but they're relentless and they're coming for you. And how are you going to survive? Can you run far enough? Can you hide? So I've always liked them. A lot of them are crap. But when you find good ones, and even modern ones, Train to Busan is a great, more modern one, isn't it? Quite like The Walking Dead on TV. I know it kind of went different weird places, but when you find good ones which are about characters who you like and can they make it through, that's what's really enjoyable in my mind.
Yeah, that's why I think with zombies especially, the comedy ones to me work just as well. Things like Shaun of the Dead, things like Zombieland, to me they work just as well with zombies. I don't know why, but to me it just does.
It's this relentless threat, though, isn't it? And it's a threat of death ultimately. That's a real factor. We're all scared of that. But when you get someone, whether it's Sean and his mates, and you kind of think, I could have a beer with those guys, Sean and Ed, I could happily spend the night with them having a great time. So you care about them quite quickly, and you don't want them to die. And slashers are often like, let's kill these teenagers quickly in more kind of entertaining ways. But often in these zombie movies, you're trying to survive impending death that does not stop and will keep coming, and they'll knock the door down, smash the window through, and keep getting you. So it's a thrill of the chase, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the things that I like with Zombieland when they put the rules in, like the double tap and stuff, and always fasten your seat belts, stuff like that. And then obviously then there's callbacks to them later, And that's what I like about that. And Woody Harrelson, can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. I mean, I thought
Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead was great as well. And there's enough humor in it that they play the zombies straight. They will kill you.
Mhm.
They will, bite your arms off and all the rest of it. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's bloody funny. And there's a lot of kind of light moments that don't totally take the scares away, but you have a laugh and then you're back into the terror and stuff. So I think comedy horrors are really tricky because you've got to be scary, you've got to be horror, but you've also got to be funny as well, haven't you? Otherwise, it's just a bit shit. So
yeah, exactly. Like I said, I think that's what it. I actually think that might be why it works so well with zombies, because zombies don't do anything other than go. So you can't make the zombies the comedy, if you know what I mean. Like you have to get the comedy in around the zombies, which are the scary part.
Yeah. It is. It's the people, isn't it? Even stuff like Return of the Living Dead, E.T.'s kind of, rockers and all that sort of stuff. And is more of a comedy one. But the zombies are just there to be scary and to kill you. And it's the people who are funny and the stuff they come up with and stuff in it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, how do I put this? So if you could only do, how do I word this? There we go. So if you could only do 3 more episodes of your podcast, you have to pick 3 films that you haven't done before. Which would you pick? I know I'm very much putting you on the spot there with that.
No, that's a great question. In some ways, we're saving some of the really goodies till we kind of get our rhythm and stuff. We went early with Night, Dawn and Day of the Dead, and so we're not going back to them. Absolutely, The Thing we're saving till we kind of can really dive into that. That's probably my second favourite movie. The paranoia, the effects and all the stuff in the kind of Arctic outpost and stuff. Kurt Russell's massive hat. So we'll definitely do The Thing. More modern-ish, probably Scream. I love what that did of kind of looking back to slashers, but kind of, as we're turning into the 90s and the noughties of knowing about horror movies. The viewer knows what you're on about. So there's lots of room in that. And a third one, probably something a bit more sort of classic-y, Lost Boys or something like that, which again, you can dive into. But once you've done an episode, you're like, we've got to kind of put that on a shelf now. We can't have a second episode on The Evil Dead or something, Yeah, something like that, I guess.
I'm not sure if you've done it, but I think a good one would be Dog Soldiers.
So I guested on pod called Let's Talk Horror with BP, and we did Dog Soldiers on that. Now Danny and I are saving that to look at survival tips because that great movie. And a really kind of, army lads, characters that you care about and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But lots of how can we avoid the werewolves and how can we make it to the end? Yeah, for sure. That's on the list. Yeah.
And also some very, very funny lines in that film.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's supposed to be almost classed as a horror comedy, but there's definitely some lines in it that tickle me.
Yeah. And it feels a bit like the banter of soldiers who are mates as well. So even if it were straight, you know that these lads would probably talk like that, even if they were bloody terrified. They're still going to take the piss out of their mate and stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's just it's like just perfectly British as well. Like most of the lines, like my favourite one where werewolf he's got him by the throat, and his response is, "I hope I give you the fucking shits."
I love that.
Any other like English speaking country, I don't think that is as funny in like America or maybe not. Like I was going to say maybe Australia. They've got a similar sense of humor to us, but like I just think any other English speaking country doesn't find that nowhere near as funny as we do.
Yeah, it's that gallows humor, isn't it? That the Brits have been around long enough. The Welsh about to kill you. Well, you might as well tell him to fuck off before you don't just sit there and let him kill you. Exactly. Talk a bit of shit to him before you get check out.
And the whole they think it's all over at the end. As a football fan, that was like the icing on the cake for me.
Yeah, there's one guy in there all the way through going like, I wonder if England have beat Germany. I can't believe we're missing that for all this shit and stuff too. That's a good one. I like it.
And because then I love at the end that it was when England famously beat Germany 5-1 in Germany. Which I fucking missed because you'll find this funny. So me, my dad and my brother still to this day furious because we missed that because we were in Blackpool and my mum made us go and see the fucking Grumbleweeds.
That's a blast from the past, the Grumbleweeds. Vaguely remember them on ITV, Britain's Got Talent or whatever.
I'm going to say about 98% of people listening to this won't have a clue what the hell I've just said, but Google's there.
Yeah. We were on holiday, but we watched it in a bar full of England fans and it was just the best, absolutely fantastic.
I can imagine. Oh, God. Right, Leighton, well, I've really enjoyed this. So do you just want to let our listeners know, just remind them about your podcast, where they can find you, all that good stuff?
Yeah, sure. So, like I say, it's me and my mate Danny hosting Surviving Horror Podcast. We're on all the podcast channels. We don't do YouTube video stuff yet because our tech setup is absolutely crap. So we just podcast. On the first of the month, we put out a kind of deep dive into a film. We've done Night, Dawn and Day of the Dead. We've done Gremlins. We've done Host. We've done It Follows. We've got Dusk Till Dawn coming out in February as well. And then we do a kind of short of the month, just a quick 5-minute chat about a 5-minute short horror movie as well in the middle of the month on the 15th. And we're on Instagram, and that's it, because I can't be arsed with lots of social media. He hates it. I'm a little bit more techie than him. He despises saying like and subscribe and stuff like that. And I find it hilarious that I have to get him to push the attention. So, yeah, we're on Instagram, and we're on audio podcasts.
Nice. So Instagram's the only one I really use now anyway. Occasionally put a few things on TikTok, but that's about it. Right, well, we shall leave it there. So thank you for listening. As always, guys, go and follow our Instagram page at the Spooky Shed Podcast. The link in the bio there for all the other socials that we don't use. But there's a link for the Patreon page, merch store, YouTube channel, and anything else that I've forgotten about. And we shall speak to you next time.
Thanks very much.